the Cannon Sports Podcast. On today's episode, we're talking CIF playoff football with LA Daily News sports writer Tarek Fattal. It is the month of November, the best month on the calendar in high school football. The playoffs are back, and with that, Tarek Fattal is back on the Cannon Sports Podcast to talk about it all. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Always a pleasure.
Now, we had you on in the beginning of the season to kind of do a brief overview of everything that we had going on in the southern section before the season. For those of us who missed that show or not aware of who you are, I don't know who that could be at this point, but go ahead and give a quick introduction. Who are you?
Yeah, Tarek Fattal, Los Angeles Daily News, entering my 8th year covering high school sports now, dabbling a little college basketball too, covering the UCLA Bruins. That's about to roll around. Some people, when it comes to November, they either think high school football, or they think it's basketball season. I'm kind of the latter, but it is high school football, and the playoffs are here. So, just doing a good job trying to cover all these great athletes.
All right, and we're going to get into all of that today. Let's go ahead and start with an overview of the playoff system as a whole. It's a very complicated system here in the southern section. A little bit of controversy. So just go ahead and give everybody a brief primer on how the playoffs are structured and how we wound up with a 10-team bracket in D1 as well.
Yeah, essentially it's a computer. I mean, that's really what it is. So you don't know where you're going to play until after the season. You play your schedule, and then you have a computer rating. The computer spits out your rating. You're a 40, you're a minus 20, you're a 16, whatever. And then literally 1 through 300 plus, you get rated. And then throughout the system, they basically draw lines at where they think the divisions will create a 16-team field. However, in Division 1, it's been 8 teams. This year, they felt like the line needed to be drawn after 10. So that's how we got a 10-team field. And yeah, there's pros and cons, to it. And some people schedule to their favor when it comes to that rating and playing up or playing down and accumulating wins. But yeah, there are a lot of flaws to it as well. And so that's how we came up with the 10-team, or not we, but that's how we are now going to watch a 10-team field play out in Division 1. And I think it'll be really interesting.
Yeah, and obviously, anytime computers and algorithms and data gets involved, you have a little, you have a little segment of the population who, gets upset, feels like their team maybe got slighted, their team, maybe passed the eye test, but that wasn't something that was visible, on the computer screen. I know that you have a fix to that system that you want to share toward the end of the show, so everybody stay tuned for that. We'll get to that toward the end, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get into some of the matchups and storylines. How we're going to go about this is we're just going to go division by division through pretty much the top half of the divisions in the bracket, kind of go over some pertinent matchups, storylines. Due to time constraints on this, I apologize. We're probably not going to be able to get to every single team and every single player.
We can't get to Division 77?
I didn't even know there were 77.
Kind of feels like it sometimes.
Right? If we don't get to your team, if we don't get to your matchup, I apologize. But, without further ado, let's go ahead and start from the top in Division 1. And Division 1 is where, of course, Mater Dei, St. John Bosco, that's where those two teams reside. They're the top 2 teams in the state. Some would say that they're the top 2 teams in the nation. They already played each other once. And, everybody thinks that they're on a collision course to play again in the Division 1 title. So, point blank, I'll just ask you this. Is there anybody in that bracket who can beat either of those teams on their way to each other?
I think the answer is no. I'll never forget Steve Fryer from OC Register and Eric Sonheimer from the LA Times. There was a night when Bishop Aumont was playing St. John. This is early in the season. They were Bishop Aumont versus St. John Bosco. And on the same night, Mater Dei was playing Corona Centennial. And we thought, okay, slight litmus test to see where some of these top programs and what can they do against number 1 versus number 2 in the country. Those games weren't even close. And I'll never forget both stories. The lead for both stories was the dates that St. John Bosco and Mater Dei are going to play, including the Division 1 final, because basically that's all that indicated is, okay, enough is enough. We've seen enough even 2 weeks into the season. We know that these two teams are going to play again. So to answer your question, can these teams be beat by anybody else? I think the answer is no. Is there a team that might be able to challenge it and whip up a little magic? Maybe so. And I think that team's probably Los Alamitos. Why? Because they probably have the best weapon in the country in Malachi Nelson. And anytime you got a guy that can put the ball wherever he wants, that's going to give you a chance. And so Again, to answer your question, no. If there's a team that I think can kind of nip at their heels and maybe capitalize on mistakes, I think it's Los Alamitos.
Yeah, and listen, it was just last year, obviously, that there was an upset in that bracket. Servite crashed the party, and they took down St. John Bosco on their way to play Mater Dei in that final. And like Los Alamitos, they had two big weapons,
yes,
two big national recruits on their office. So yeah, Los Alamitos definitely has a similar build to that great Servite team. I think there are a little bit more question marks on the defensive end than Servite has, but allowing yourself to kind of suspend disbelief, and let's say that Los Alamitos or another team in that bracket is able to crash the party, how would they do it? What is the key to being able to win that game?
So the thing with Servite that I would say probably has the edge on a team like Los Alamitos, if you know Troy Thomas, the head coach at Servite, it's like military. It's just the truth. They come in, they march the same way, they walk the same way, they dress the same way. Sounds a little crazy, but basically when you are one unit moving towards one common goal, you're less likely to make a mistake. And that's how we always talk about, you got to play perfect football. Servite did that and beat St. John Bosco last year. So it takes not only some great plays and athleticism and some magic, like I had alluded to earlier, but it takes a game plan that the less mistakes, the better chance you have. And so any team that's going to do that, that's what they have to do. No mistakes or little to none. And if the other team makes mistakes, you have to capitalize, go down and score, or if there's an errant throw, don't let that slip through your hands, make it an interception. We always see players, it gets through their hands and then they're on the field like slapping on the grass. It's like, oh, what a chance. Yeah, those need to be secured, and that's how you can beat a big team like that.
Yeah, and listen, Ray Fenton down there at Los Alamitos is a coach kind of in that similar mold, really runs that program with a lot of discipline, demands excellence. So, if there's a guy to be able to, put together that kind of perfect game, I think that's a pretty good bet that he could be that guy. But, before we even get to that point, that is a big first round matchup for Los. Well, I guess second round, they've got the bye, but their first game will be against Long Beach Poly. I guess you could call it a home game, but given that those two share a home stadium, there's going to be a lot of fireworks in that game. What do you make of that matchup?
Yeah, that'll be a great game. Long Beach Poly is unbeaten, undefeated regular season. They're 10-0, and I think the element of Long Beach Poly is they really haven't been challenged in a while. They play in a weaker league, the Moore League, compared to the way they play football, and so that could be something in the postseason where you never want your toughest challenge to come in a winner-takes-all scenario. And so they've been challenged earlier in the year and won those challenges, but you could argue sometimes losses, especially with high schoolers at any level, baseball, basketball, any sport, when you experience defeat, it's gonna, we can learn from that. And Long Beach Poly unscathed, so I would give the advantage to Los Alamitos in that game.
Well, and Long Beach Poly literally unscathed in their last 5 Moore League games. They have outscored their last 5 Moore League opponents 280-0 on their way to that undefeated run. And listen, whether they win that game or lose that game, safe to say they ain't holding Alamitos scoreless.
Right. And that's a good point. And look, when you say numbers like that, clearly they haven't been challenged. It's just the truth. So they've got to find ways to challenge themselves in practice and so on and so forth to sharpen those tools, because that's going to be a heck of a game. And yeah, I think Los Alamitos have played, I think they went out of state like 2 times this year, played some national kind of out-of-state prominent programs and took some lumps earlier in the year and then grew from it, and now look at them now. So trajectory is different, but either way, got to win on the field.
Yeah, they're a team that's peaking at the right time against some really high-quality opponents. But, definitely don't count out Poly. They've got a really talented team and a great coach and a great storied program. So, the rest of that bracket, with the byes that we have, we do know 3 other games that are happening in those first couple of rounds. Edison Orange Lutheran. That's a matchup of an early season game
Rematch.
between those two.
Right,
Edison
right.
took that one, and really one that was a lot closer than the score would indicate. Olu got down early, started to come back, but was the victim of a couple of turnovers. But for the vast majority of that game, that was a lot closer than the final score. Centennial and Mission Viejo, and then a Trinity League matchup, Santa Margarita and J. Sarah. So those are the three other matchups that we know of already in Division One. What sticks out to you?
Yeah, I think what sticks out to me is nothing necessarily in particular, but just three really good games. We're not sure who's going to win. You could give an edge to one team or another, but Curtis Centennial, Mission Viejo, what a great game. And, J. Sarah, Santa Margarita, okay, another Trinity League matchup. And like you said, Orange. So we got teams that have kind of played each other. The thing with the Edison-Orange Lutheran game that kind of sticks out to me is we kind of talked about earlier with the computer system and these playoffs. One thing that doesn't get computed is how well a team is playing. That you kind of witness that with your eyes, and you make that assumption with what's between your ears. And so I just find it odd that the computer can't really equate any of those things. But my point being, any team or any game that happened in week 2 or 3, you can kind of throw that out the window. Teams are different, better, and more developed during playoff time.
We're going to see how all of those matchups shake out. So, it's your prediction that we will have a modern-day St. John
Yes.
Bosco final. If anybody's going to crash the party, you seem to think that it's going to be Los Alamitos. Pretty hard to disagree with that. But, okay, so we get to that final, modern-day St. John Bosco. That's a rematch. Like we said, modern-day round one. Who's going to take round 2?
I've been saying this on TV. I've been saying it on Twitter. I just don't see how I can pick against Mater Dei. They are the champs, and until someone comes and hits them off the block, they're the team to beat. So
until Elijah Brown loses his first game.
There you go. You got a guy, I think, what is he, 24, 25-0 now, maybe
right.
as a starter, right? So, including, this season's win against St. John Bosco. So, to me, and that's what's funny. Coming into that game, everyone had St. John Bosco picked. Maybe not everyone, but the majority. Well,
they were the number one team across the board by everybody's ranking.
And to me, it's like, man, until you take the big dog down, you need to give them their respect. And so, yeah, for me, it's Mater Dei.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fun to see how that shakes out. All right, moving into Division 2, and this is going to be a really fun bracket, especially for us. This is kind of our geographic area. I mean, Mission League stand up.
Yep.
There are 4 Mission League teams represented in this one. Sarah, Chaminade, Sierra Canyon, Bishop Amat. 3 of those make up the top 3 seeds. Obviously, there's, so much of that bracket is stacked with talent, stacked with, impressive storylines. But, just I'll throw it to you.
Sure.
What are some of the most important things you're looking at in that bracket?
Yeah, the division has so much parity. That's the word. And, Norco is the bottom seed and has to travel to Serra Gardena, who's the number 1 seed. And Norco could win that game, It's good football throughout every matchup. It's good football throughout the whole division. And so we just don't know who's going to win, who's going to have the better night on any given night. But that's what makes it fun. And so that's what makes it hard to predict who's going to win or who's going to be in the final. Last year, we saw a team like Alamany literally just run over people to the final and played Orange Lutheran. Actually had that game won. I was there. And then Orange Lutheran created a couple turnovers and ended up winning that game. So it's really just such an interesting and wild ride, that Division 2 bracket.
Yeah, and so much star power in that bracket as well. We talked about all the teams in the Mission League that are there, and outside the Mission League, you've got Warren and their star quarterback Nico Iamaleava. His last go around with the Bears before he's off to Tennessee. St. Bonaventure and DeLon Thompson, the number 1 rusher in the state. Inglewood, Huson Longstreet, sophomore quarterback, the undefeated season that they've had, and Rancho Cucamonga, Oaks Christian, like you said, Norco. This is a bracket that I don't see much in the way of blowout potential.
No, and if it is, it might be something where it looks like that on the scoreboard, but maybe a couple touchdowns at the end,
Sure.
or something like that. But I don't see any blowouts. I don't see any. There's no separation. 1 through 16 is like this. It's just every team is good. All the coaches are good. All those programs have a pride and tradition and a way they go about things. And so it's going to be really, really fun. And you said there's a lot of star power in, and that's true.
Yeah, and whereas most are expecting the Division One bracket to be relatively drama free, at least once you get to the final rounds, I think there's going to be a lot of drama in this one.
Yes.
So getting into some of these teams, some of these matchups specifically. Sarah is the number 1 seed in this bracket, but specifically, I want to talk right now about Sierra Canyon. So the first time that we had you on the show, that was your team to beat in the Mission League in North LA, and the team that you said, I remember your words, you said that's the team that can really mix it up in Orange County. Unfortunately, given their placement in Division II, we're not going to see them have a chance to do that specifically, but talking about the season that they had, started out 1-3 against some really strong non-league opponents, one of them being that J. Sarah team.
Right.
But really turned it on during conference play, 4-1. It took Bishop Amat to double overtime to even take them down. Some big wins over Sarah, over Chaminade. Those are teams that are also in this bracket. The run game has been unstoppable.
Yep.
The defense has been a turnover machine. So even though, it took them a couple of games to get there, this team is firing on all cylinders. They're really looking like that team that you laid out that they would be in the early going. So are they the team to beat in this Division II bracket?
They might be, just because they're playing the best football right now. So you're right. They started 1-3, ended up starting 2-4, and then, just started putting it together. And I think there's an element, again, like Coach John Ellinghaus, the coach, I think he probably wanted to do some more developing pass plays. And I think kind of realized, man, I think we need to kind of simplify our offense a little bit. And he just started giving it to a healthy Terrell Cooks and a really good sophomore in Dane Dunn. And it was just like, it's almost like hoops. Like, give your best guy the ball and, like, get the hell out the way. Like, there's no, that's it, and I'm sure it's deeper than that. But essentially, they just started running the ball, and no one can stop it. And then the defense is turning a corner, like you said, turnovers and making tackles and having some discipline too. So when you put all that together during the postseason, in my opinion, that's an outright Mission League champion. That is known as the second best league in the state behind the Trinity League. So to me, Sierra Canyon has earned a Division I playoff berth. But because computers don't look at it like that, they look at a 6-4 record from a macro level. They're not looking at it like, man, this team just reeled off 5 in a row and is the outright champion of a very good league. Like, they need to be in Division I. So you could say Sierra Canyon is a Division I caliber team or playing Division I caliber football, and they're in Division II. Does that make them the team to beat? I don't know, but they should have a lot of confidence going into this postseason.
Yeah, and their first round matchup, that's going to be against Warren and Nico. That's going to be a huge game, and definitely two different styles of play.
Yes.
Like we talked about, Sierra Canyon, as when they really hit their stride, relying heavily on the run and on the defense. Warren is
putting it in the air.
Yeah, naturally going to be relying heavy on the pass game. So two different styles of play, and it's going to be a very fun game to watch this Friday.
John Ellinghaus told me this week, if there's the strength of his team is that they've been tested. And I'm like, you know what?
Sure.
Amen. They started off 2-4. So not only tested on the field by playing some good teams, Mission Viejo, I think, beat them like 41 or 42-0.
Something like that, yeah.
It's like they got shellacked, laughed off the field. It's just the truth. And so not only are you tested physically on the field, but emotionally, kind of spiritually, in regards to just like, man, how do we turn this team around? How can I look at the guys in the locker room and go, yeah, we can do this? And it's hard to do with teenagers, man. Teenagers like, yeah, whatever, we're 2-4. I'm going to focus on playing Call of Duty. It's like there's just so many other things that can draw their attention. So for any high school coach or even collegiate coach to kind of rally young people together and turn a season around is really, really difficult. So again, this is a very, very well-tested team on and off the field, Sierra Canyon.
Now moving across the valley over to Chaminade,
Sure.
This is a team that got off to an 8-0 start, kind of surprised a few people.
This is the
especially
flip side of it.
Right, exactly. They started off incredibly hot, surprised a lot of people. They held the top spot in the Mission League for a while, held the top spot in your poll
yes, number
for
one
a while.
for weeks. Yes.
Yeah, had that shocking upset against J. Sarah at home, last-minute field goal, but since then they've kind of got, it's not. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say they, went the other way. They're a two-loss team, but those two losses came in the last 2 weeks of the season to Sierra Canyon, to Sarah. So, high-quality opponents, but leaves a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth.
Certainly.
And, knocks them off that undefeated perch that they've been sitting on. Given all of that, what do you make of the Eagles at this point headed into the postseason?
I always repeat this. UCLA basketball coach Mick Cronin always says the most useless stat in sports is the halftime score. And boy, ain't that the truth. And so, look, 7-0, 8-0, 5-0, whatever. You want, any coach would agree, you want to be playing your best football when it matters most. And the truth is, Chaminade's not doing that right now. Does that mean that they're now done for? Absolutely not. But there's a rallying aspect that Sierra Canyon dealt with, for example, earlier in the year, and have now on the other side of it. Chaminade is still looking for the other side of that rally point. And so for that to come during a win-or-go-home scenario, that's difficult. Okay, hey, all right, boys, let's see what we're really made of. And so David Machuca, first-year head coach, has done an absolutely outstanding job.
Fantastic.
Yep, no question. And but he would agree with. You lost the last 2 games of the season. You were first, and now you went and you dropped to third in your league, and so there's more question marks. And so, yeah, we'll see how that pans out. They host a good, capable San Clemente team. And so we're going to see. Usually San Clemente knows how to score. That's generally their kind of makeup is scoring points and things of that nature. So they'll make the trek up to West Hills, and we'll see if the Deep Blue Sea, as they call it, can get a first-round win.
Yeah, in addition to the job that David Machuca's done, the player leadership on that team is also, really something to behold with Marquise Gallegos, Javance Johnson. Those are two guys who, in addition to being very, very good football players, they're very, very good leaders of their team. And I think that if that team is going to make a run, it's because those two guys step up both on the field and in the locker room.
They're going to need to. Yeah. I don't know. Those are both high character kids. Isaiah Chisholm, another one. Just really good kids, good program. But I would be willing to bet they would, if they were here, they'd go, yeah, we're good kids, but we need to win. And that's just what matters right now. So we'll see how Chaminade does.
And looking even further down the road for them, if they have if they do end up making that final game, there's a pretty decent chance that they're going to be able to have that revenge game against either Sierra Canyon or Sarah.
It wouldn't be far-fetched to see an all-Mission League Division II final, and we could see a Sierra Canyon Chaminade or a Sarah Chaminade. Could see a Bishop Amat Chaminade.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Obviously, there are a lot of different ways that this could go and really up in the air. But if I asked you to make a prediction of what that final is going to be.
You know what? I think I'm gonna sneak out of that question. I don't know if I'm gonna give you 2 teams, but I'll just continue to say that.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. There's too many good teams, and that's what should be highlighted about that division is we don't know who it's gonna be. That's what the playoffs should be. Nothing should get easier in the postseason. It should get more difficult, and the Division II bracket does that for every single team in the field.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and move on to Division III. One team specifically that I wanted to highlight in this one was Thousand Oaks.
Yeah.
10-0, Canyon League title, and yet they are having they're having to travel. Well, not just on the road.
Yeah,
they're traveling all the way down to Temecula.
On a Friday.
Yeah, on a Friday. And their principal, Eric Bergman, he took to Twitter to express his frustrations on that. A lot of the fan base, a lot of the people who follow that program agree with him. What's the logic on the part of the seeding committee taking an undefeated league champion, putting him on that road trip, and does Thousand Oaks have a case?
So what I'll say is, and not to correct you, but I think like when you say committee, we think about like humans at a table. That's not what's happening. It's a computer. Do you see what I'm saying? So I kind of have an idea of how to implement like a committee aspect to this math that makes Thousand Oaks, a 10-0 team, have to go on the road. And I don't know, and I don't know if Chaparral even won their own league. They might have finished second or third or maybe even an at-large team, because we're seeing a lot of at-large teams. For those out there that don't know what an at-large team is, an at-large team is a team that didn't even qualify from their own league as an automatic playoff berth team. So they have to basically wait on Sunday and pray that they get selected via the Cal Preps rankings. And so some of those at-large teams are hosting games against teams that won their league. So I don't know about Chaparral, but I do know a 10-0 league champion should never be on the road in the postseason. And so we'll probably talk about that a little bit later, but in regards to what I think should be the correction there. But Thousand Oaks is a great story. I think they went 0-25 or 0-26. Maybe you have the number on that. Do you know?
Well, yeah, they before Evan Yabu took over the program, they went. I don't know about the specific number, but they were winless 2 years in a row.
Correct. So it spanned. It was. You can only play 10 games in the season, so that's 20 straight losses. But before that, before the first winless season happened, I think they lost like 5 or 6 games. So I think it was 25 or 26 straight losses, including 2 winless seasons. They hire Evan Yabu, young, fiery dude, went to Thousand Oaks, brought back a lot of alum and like coaches that had coached there before to make his coaching staff and make it something they can be proud of.
And I don't know if you saw the interview that we did with him on the podcast, but he shared with us a lot of the kind of unconventional coaching methods he also brought in.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, holistic methods of coaching, and I guess not so much unconventional, but new age, adapted.
He's kind of like a modern take on things.
He's leaned really heavy into analytics, biomechanics, movement tracking, and also elements of public speaking. Things that are completely off the football field to help his players build up their confidence, build up their ability to speak, build up their ability to communicate, something that, obviously is going to help them on the field, but also, in life as well. Yeah. So, it was really a joy to talk to him and, hear the interesting way that he's gone about turning around that program, because it's not just a matter of, I'm in here, I'm going to bring in some football guys and some alums and scout and, and bring in some high quality talent. Of course there's all that, but it was really interesting to hear everything else that went into that turnaround for Thousand Oaks.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's the epitome of a great high school coach, is not only building the football player, but building the person off the field. So it doesn't surprise me. Evan Yabu's a good guy, a fiery guy, and all that to say, so Thousand Oaks is going to be on the road. It doesn't make any sense, but that's the kind of card they've been dealt, so to speak. And the principal might be complaining, and that's a fair gripe. But I know that program's like, whatever, man. Tell us where to line up. We're going to win a game. So the player to watch for that team, the two that stand out for me are Chase Martin, who's really a Daily News Player of the Year candidate because of what he does on both sides of the ball. He's not just throwing it, or he's not just making tackles. He plays running back, leads their team in rushing, I think touchdowns as well, and then leads their team in tackles. It's like, and it has them 10-0. So, and then the other one is the quarterback, Travis Endicott, who's a senior leader transfer and has the team rolling.
Yeah, and the other team that I wanted to highlight out of Division III is West Ranch. We're obviously really familiar with them, undefeated out of the Foothill League. They've got Ryan Staub. He had one heck of a season, the Colorado committed quarterback, more than 2,400 yards, 32 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I mean, you talk about the quarterback class down here in Southern California. He's a guy who doesn't get as much love as maybe some of the guys down in South LA and down in Orange County, but he may be every bit as good as a lot of those guys, and really has the potential to carry that team far. What do you make out of West Ranch?
So West Ranch had a historical season, first undefeated season. That's a check, but maybe more importantly, their first ever Foothill League title. And I think when I came on earlier in the year, I kind of pegged them for the Foothill League favorite well before they even started Foothill League play. So I sit here on this chair like, called that, but but stop again, like kind of talking about Nico from Warren. When you've got a kid that can put the ball wherever, there's the two hardest things, I think we talked about this, two hardest things to do in high school football, and I would argue anybody about this. One is defending the pass, especially when you have an elite quarterback. So that's one. 2, tackling a Division I caliber running back. Now, West Ranch doesn't have that, but those are the two things that are the hardest things to do in high school. So Ryan Staub has the ability to put the ball wherever he wants. He's got athletes, and it's a team that is highly confident after winning their first Foothill League title. A community behind them, and they're 10-0. So they host. They got a tough draw, man. They host St. Pius, and that's a team that can score points. The only difference that could what could make a difference, in that game is St. Pius is a small private school. Talent, but maybe like 40, 45 guys on their roster. West Ranch, public, 55, 60 guys on their roster. And down, war of attrition, so on and so forth, depth, injury, just substitutions, that could make the difference in that game.
Yeah, that's another real fun thing about this time of the year is you really get to see the public versus private supremacy battles and how those play out.
And sometimes, like Corona Centennial is a public school, powerhouse. That West Ranch, not necessarily a powerhouse, public school. Then there's teams like Sierra Canyon, Chaminade, smaller schools, but the resources to have an elite, good competitive football program. So St. Pius, if I'm being honest, I don't really know what else they're good at. I don't know if they're good at basketball or baseball or any of their girls' sport. I'm not familiar with the school other than clearly, hey, we're gonna kind of go all in on football and look at them, Division III and having a good year. I think they only have one loss, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that is correct. Yes.
Yeah. So a good football team.
Before we move on to Division IV, anything else that you want to shine a light on in that Division III bracket?
No, not necessarily. I think we kind of covered it. For me, it's about West Ranch and Thousand Oaks, and really excited to see what's going to come of that bracket. And I kind of hope West Ranch seriously. I hope West Ranch makes a deep run.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think no matter who comes out of that, it's gonna be really fun to watch. And somebody, I mean, this is probably the most cliche thing I'm gonna say. I even feel stupid before I say it. Somebody who deserves it is gonna win. Yeah. Oh my God, I know, hot take, right?
Yeah. Someone that plays really good football is gonna win. Okay, yeah. No, that's another fun division. Maybe a couple teams that stand out more than like a Division II, where it could be anybody.
Yeah. Into Division IV, a couple of interesting storylines that come out of this one. You've got on one side Newberry Park, and the last time you were on this show, we spent a lot of time talking about Brady Smigel. We've since done an interview with him. Had Coach Smigel on the podcast a few weeks ago, so that's a team that we've covered extensively. Watched that thriller that they had against Thousand Oaks. Cannon Sports was out covering that game. That was
3 overtimes.
3 overtimes.
Jeez,
yeah, 3 overtimes.
Couple missed opportunities. It was crazy.
Yeah, Newberry Park.
No one wanted to win for a second.
Yeah, Newberry Park got down early. Brady threw a couple of picks.
That's right.
His first
they
picks.
Were down 21 points maybe.
Yeah,
came back,
stormed back, and then there were some. I think the teams traded missed field goals at the end. Thousand Oaks finally. I mean, so just an absolute thriller of a game. Yeah. And that was just one game, but any time, and that was a game that they lost. Right, so not to sell them short, because the fact is, every time that you watch that team play, it's fireworks. Yeah. They are a fun team to watch. Brady is a heck of a player, and it's not just him either.
No. They got Nolan Story, the running back's a really good athlete, and they got some other guys that can really go.
Yeah, and then also Milliken. That's a team that has been through a decent amount of adversity this year. A couple of early season forfeits. Yep. They had some injuries. They were without Miles Jackson. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the state for a period of time. They were without their coach for a game or two. So
more adversity.
That's a team that has had to face a lot, but everybody's back on the field, everybody's back on the sidelines. They're playing good football. Miles and Ryan Pelham especially are playing exceptional football. It's like we talked about a little bit ago in relation to Chaminade and Sierra Canyon. The halftime score doesn't matter. Nope. And it's really about staying hot at the right time, and this team has done that. So those are the two teams that I've kind of flagged in that Division IV bracket.
Well, I think Milliken, for example, they had to play Long Beach Poly. So sometimes when you're a team that plays in a league with a juggernaut, okay, you go in, you give it your best shot, and you're thinking, okay, if you're a coach, you don't say this to your team, but you're like, okay, we're probably not going to win, but there are elements we're going to find out. It's a litmus test for us. Can we make this game close? We're going up against a juggernaut. What can we be good at? And then that'll tell you what you could probably use to dominate lesser teams. So you got Milliken, who plays a Division I Long Beach Poly because they have to. They're in the same league. And then now they're in Division IV. So I just think when you've seen big, bad bad, fast, strong teams, there's nothing you now haven't seen before. And that can really, really help you in the playoffs.
Oh, but now talking specifically about that Long Beach Poly game, that was probably the game that they faced the most adversity, not just because of the score, but because of everything that they were dealing with kind of culminated in that 1 week. We were out at that game, and in that game you had Miles Jackson injured.
Sure.
Jordan Anderson, the wide receiver, lining up at quarterback. Ryan Pelham, the other star receiver, running the Wildcat.
Okay.
Romeo Pelham, not on the sideline. And then, the score ended up what it was. So,
maybe they couldn't give their best shot.
I was going to say, so to your point, in a game like that, you learn a lot about yourself and your team.
And
but
maybe
especially
some other guys.
Yeah, but what are you truly able to learn in a game like that where it's so radically different than the team that you expect to line up on a day-to-day basis?
Right. And that might have been the case, but there's always something you can take from those games, because I'm sure there were starters that played in that game, and yeah, you didn't have your star athletes, but either way, you've got your offensive line, your defensive line, some of your linebackers have now seen guys that move really, really well. And so when you go down to Division IV, there might be a couple of them on the other side, but not a full team of them.
Yeah, and Romeo Pelham, he's a great motivator. He's a heck of a coach down there. So I think with a new, not new. It's the team that they started preseason with. But now that everything's clicking, I think that's a team that could really make a deep run.
Okay.
Hey Tarek.
Yes.
You want to talk about some controversy?
No.
No?
Okay, go ahead.
We're going to, because we're getting into that Division 5 bracket.
Oh, yeah.
The big story in that bracket is obviously Alemany. They got the at-large bid despite the 0-5 result in the Mission League. Now, they got in there on the strength of beating San Diego's top team, Lincoln. Proceed.
Yeah, I talked to Casey Clausen, their head coach. I called him Sunday afternoon, and he literally answered the phone like, "What are we doing here?" I don't think he'd mind me sharing that. He himself, when he went on the record, he himself was surprised. They weren't expecting to make the playoffs. They won 2 games, and again, for listeners, this is a team that was in the Division II final. If you're in the Division II final, you're basically like a slight cut below from being a Division I high school football team in Southern California.
And not only that, we're one good half of football away from winning Division II. It took Orange Lutheran having that stunning comeback for them to go down.
They had double-digit signees on signing day. And so I get that that's not this year's team. So obviously this year's team's just not as good. But the program is of that caliber. They just had a down year. That's it. That's all it is. And their quarterback, they had one quarterback on the roster. He got hurt. So they've had to run Wildcat pretty much most of the year, especially in Mission League play. So they go winless in league. 2-7, but they had one. And again, here's another computer thing that I think is so ridiculous. That game against Lincoln, I think, was like a week 1 victory.
Yeah, it was one of the first 2 weeks of the season. I think
it was. They lost to Lone Peak bad from Utah, and I think and then we were all like, oh no. Then the next week they beat Lincoln 13-7 or something. And we're like, oh my gosh, okay. And then here we are at the end of the year, and Lincoln is the number 1 team in San Diego. So according to the Cal Prep rankings, according to the computer, according to their math system, that was enough to, hey, this team is capable. The problem with putting a team like Alemany, though a rough year at their weight class, so to speak, USC was horrible at football last year.
Sure.
Okay. You know what? You had a bad year, USC. We're going to drop you down to D2. You're going to play in the NCAA Division II playoffs. Does that make any sense?
No.
What would USC, in their worst year ever, do in the Division II playoff field?
They'd roll everybody.
Exactly. So I don't know if Alemany is going to win Division 5, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win a couple games, man, because it's just a different level. When you're playing big boy football every Friday night, even if you're losing, it just you create a certain just toughness and grittiness. There's just so much things you develop by seeing the same caliber of play. And then the postseason comes and things get easier. I just wouldn't be. I just wouldn't be surprised if Alamany made a run like the semifinal or the final of that division.
Well, and that's one thing that we were talking about a little bit before the show. Now that you have a team that there are a lot of people who don't think that they should be there.
They shouldn't. Yeah, no, they shouldn't.
So the question though is, what do they now have to do to prove that it was justified? If they get one win, is it justified? If they win two, if they get to the semifinals, what are they?
I think a semifinal appearance would be like, yeah, this is. I think it would only prove they shouldn't be down there. I mean, Notre Dame Sherman Oaks is in the same division, and they only won one game in the Mission League. Now, according to their record, they won two, but that's because one of them was a forfeit victory. So on the field, the only team they beat, Alamany. So they finished 4-6, and they go to Division 5. It's just, again, different level of football. I think Alamany's going to play Temecula Valley, and Notre Dame's going to play Great Oak. I mean,
yeah, and talking about this brings up the perfect opportunity to talk about Servite down in the Trinity League, because similar to Alamany, similar to Alamany, a one-win team, winless in league play in a much stronger Trinity League. I think everybody will agree with that.
Yes.
They were not selected for an at-large bid. I don't know what your opinion on that is, but given everything that we just talked about Alamany, and then talking about how Servite had a very similar season in a much higher caliber league, didn't have that signature win like Alamany had. Their lone win was against La Mirada, which is hardly Lincoln. How should fans make sense of the juxtaposition of those two teams?
So, this is what it makes me think of. Okay. So, Alamany dropped into that Division 4 territory, got an at-large. I'd be willing to bet, I don't know this to be true, Servite, despite such a poor season, was probably like in Division 4 territory, but there were other teams more with a better resume, so to speak, or a better Cal Prep rating that earned them into that Division 4 field. I'd be willing to bet if Servite went winless, it might have dropped them down a little more, and they might have gotten into Division 5.
I'm not following.
Okay. Basically, their rating was high enough to get them into a certain division that they didn't qualify for. But sometimes it's like, if you actually, this is the flaw with the system. You can be Alamany at 2-7, and you had a bad enough season where it drops you into a playoff division you can get into. Sometimes you can play well enough out of playoff contention. I know it's hard to digest, but let's say you're a team that goes 5-5. So you had a good season, but you're an at-large team out of your league. You played well enough where when they go to make that, when the Cal Preps rankings goes to assert into the division, okay, this team. Okay, we have 3 at-large spots available. Okay, at-large team 1, at-large team 2. It fills the field. So you might be with 3 at-large teams available to fill. You might have been that 4th at-large team. You don't get in. But if you would have had a worse season, you would have dropped down into a field where you might have made an at-large berth. So I know it sounds confusing, and I might not even be explaining it right. People out there will kind of know. If you've been following it, you'll pick up on it. But essentially, you could argue maybe if Servite didn't get the win, because of their strength of schedule, they might have gotten in somewhere else in a lower division.
That is interesting. Well, that makes me even more excited to hear your fix to the system at the end here.
So bad. That's a team that was in the Division 1 final. The fact that they're even in the playoff discussion is ridiculous. But they didn't get in, so the world kept spinning. The sky didn't fall, because I tell you what, man, a 1-9 team in the playoffs, 2-7's bad enough.
Sure.
Alamany. You get a 1-9 team in there. You're asking yourself, why? Why is a team that won one game have any chance of winning any CIF championship? Because that's what you're giving them.
Yeah. So you think that result is justified?
Yes, and yes, you put in that. So for people that don't know,
do you want to think about it?
No. Anyone that doesn't know, when you are not an automatic qualifier, you have to file paperwork. It's like an application to be an at-large berth.
Right.
So anyone does that as like a technicality or like a formality. You don't want to be the team like, hey, coach, or hey, athletic director, you guys might have gotten into the playoffs as an at-large berth. Why didn't you get in? We didn't file the paperwork. Oh, so you didn't want to go? See what I'm saying? So you file the paperwork just to say, like, yeah, we filed, knowing you're probably not going to get in. It looks worse if the paperwork's not filed. So my point is Servite had the goal, and I think, and I joke in that sense, they filed that paperwork. Hey, we have one win. Put us in. And I think they were really close to getting in.
Yeah, you can't not file the paperwork.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I want to get into now just some general questions as we get toward the end, just talking about the broader field. I guess I'll pose the question, give my answer, then open up the floor to you.
You got it.
All right, question number 1 is going to be, which first round matchup are you most looking forward to? For me, I'm going to go with that game. Like I said, technically second round, but it's each of their first games. That Los Alamitos game versus Long Beach Poly that's going to be next Friday. Everybody knows about the star power on both sides of the ball here. You got Malachi Nelson, you got Mekhi Lemon, you got Damian Henderson. That offense is stacked. T.A. Cunningham on defense. He's back. That's going to be that already has been a huge boost to the defense. And then on the other end, Dalen Austin. He's one of the top players in the 2023 class. He's one of the top cornerbacks in the nation. It's going to be primarily on his shoulders to stop Malachi, to stop Mekhi. We already talked about how that atmosphere is going to be intense.
There should be 10,000 people at that game.
Yeah. So that's the first round matchup that I'm most excited for.
Yeah, I think for me, I got to pick a team in my neck of the woods, and that's probably Sierra Canyon Warren. Just an offense that is very capable, and a football team, and offense that is very capable in Warren, and a football team that's playing the best football maybe in all of Southern California and Sierra Canyon. Something's got to give, so we'll see. I think Sierra Canyon probably has a little more versatility and a little more juice to probably win that game. So if they can do something to disrupt Nico and get him out of his game, what else can Warren go to? I don't know. And whatever they decide to go to, can that beat Sierra Canyon? Probably not. Like, if you have to resort to plan B and C, you're probably not beating a very good Sierra Canyon team. So give me the Trailblazers in that.
Yeah.
I know you didn't ask for a prediction, but I just gave you one. That's the game I'm looking forward to.
Well, that feeds perfectly into the next question.
Sure.
Which later round matchup are you hoping comes to fruition? Now, just a point of clarification, this is not a prediction.
Right.
Who do you think is going to win? What do you think the matchup is going to be? But just kind of as you look into the possibilities that exist further down the bracket, what lends itself to a good story, to a good matchup. And for me, that is going to be the potential Division II second round matchup between Sarah and Warren. Again, not a prediction that's what's going to happen, but there's a lot to look forward to if those two teams end up playing each other. That's a rematch of an early season game. Nico versus Roderick, part 2. Two of the best players in class, two of the best players in the state, and also friends off the field. An elite quarterback, an elite DB. But it was kind of disappointing that we didn't get to see the full extent of what that matchup could have been in the early season. Sarah won that matchup. It was a low scoring game. It was a cold, rainy night. Not a lot of offense.
Was that game on TV? Or like maybe a stream game?
I think it was.
Yeah. Not a game, probably not a game that.
But yeah, it was cold. It was
Thursday
rainy.
Night, like Amazon Prime games with like no touchdowns or something.
Literally. So. You would expect that that round 2 of that will be everything that round 1 was supposed to be and more. But like we talked about, both of those teams are going to have big tests on the way to that. Sarah needs to get by Norco. You brought that up as potential.
Absolutely.
Yeah, potential first round upset. That's a very capable team
Sarah's
that Norco
got a great
has.
Run game. They're not the best passing team. So you stop the run, force them to pass. Things could happen for Norco.
Yeah, and Warren, as we discussed, needs to get by Sierra Canyon. And even though, Warren may have the single best player in this bracket, Sierra Canyon has been, this is going to be the toughest test that Warren has faced. Sierra Canyon is battle tested. They've been playing teams like this all year.
Exactly.
So, both of those teams are going to have a real tough road to get to that matchup.
No question. I would say I'll kind of manipulate your question here. I think the storyline for me is Alemany.
Yeah.
For me, in my area, it's like here's this 2-win team, ho-humming it and just thinking they're not even going to make it. And here they are now in the playoffs. And there's an element of it that I think it may not be me necessarily. However, if I cover that story, the threaded line through that story will be there's a problem with the playoff system and dropping a team, despite having not a great year, just dropping a team so low into Division 5. And we'll see how Alamany does, because I think they have a chance with their running game, despite even knowing it's coming. They've got some Division 1 talented backs. And I don't know if Division 5 defenses are going to be able to tackle this guy, Peyton White. So we'll see. And Jeremiah Claiborne's another one, too. So anyway, Alamany for me is the storyline I'm keeping an eye on.
So the answer to that question is Alamany versus anybody.
Exactly. Yep, well said. I think so, yes.
So I think I know your answer to the next question, which is going to be, which underrated team do you see making a deep run and surprising a lot of people?
Oh, man. I'm going to have to go deep into the divisions. You know what? I'll keep it high. I'll say St. Bonaventure.
Okay.
I know they've got DeLon Thompson. Everyone's kind of talking about him. But even going into that Oaks Christian game, I went to Ventura College last week. It was a Thursday night. Oaks Christian just decided not to even show up. It was embarrassing. And so St. Bonaventure ran them over. And to me, I think everyone kind of goes up against St. Bonaventure and goes, okay, they've got one guy. Like, we should be able to stop this. And then they can't. So to me, that's an under-the-radar team because they've got more than that. They got Anthony Walter. He's a pretty good quarterback. And some other athletes that can hurt you if you hone in on the run game too much. And at the end of the day, Joe Ganecci is their coach. Boy, he has that team ready to rock every Friday night. So well coached. And a team that's playing with a chip on their shoulder. So definitely a team to watch, St. Bonaventure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got two teams that I've flagged for this one. I'm going into D3 and D4.
Okay.
I think Thousand Oaks and Milliken are two teams that can really make some noise. Obviously, we talked about them a lot on the show. Thousand Oaks, like St. Bonaventure, is a team that has a chip on their shoulder due to their seeding, due to their replaced. But like we said, they got a great young coach in Evan Yabu, a lot of really talented players, and they had that undefeated season, but still find themselves on kind of the underrated line. But I think they got a chance to put all that together. And same thing with Milliken, like we said, like Thousand Oaks, a great young coach, a great motivator. They've got all of that star power in Miles and Ryan and Jordan, who are finally all on the field together, healthy. They've gotten over all that adversity that they've dealt with, and they're ready to make some noise in that D4.
Milliken's got a tough matchup. They're going to play Saugus. Not only just the road trip, but I actually think that they'll win that game. Saugus needs to keep the score low to win that game. They hang their hat on defense and kind of like physical, like run game, and then a couple passes here and there. So Milliken is known for scoring its points.
Yeah, it's a team that puts the ball in the end zone.
So they're similar to kind of a West Ranch.
Right.
And Saugus got throttled by West Ranch. So I think Milliken will probably have success on the road at Saugus.
All right, and then finally, we're going to go 5 guys that you are keeping a close eye on throughout the postseason. I'll go ahead and start off with T.A. Cunningham down at Los Alamitos. His story's been well chronicled, the personal hardship that he's had to face this season and fighting through some red tape in the CIF, but playing for that great Los Alamitos team who's got a really tough road ahead of them. And like we said, the offense is there for them. But the one question mark is the defense, and they've been without him for most of the season. He's the top edge rusher in next year's 2024 class. They're without him for a lot of the season, but he's on the field. He's been ramping up. He's been getting stronger every week, and if he can play at max capacity here in the postseason, yeah, that's gonna be real dangerous.
Okay, so is this the one guy?
All right, let's go 1 for 1. All right.
1 for 1.
I'm changing the rules on the fly.
Yeah, okay, got it. No problem. For me, I'm going to go with Chase Martin from Thousand Oaks. Again, I mentioned him earlier. Just a guy that plays both sides and really kind of carries the team sometimes and wills them to victory. I believe he scored the game-winning touchdown against Newbury Park, by the way.
He did.
Yeah, that'll be my pick. I'll go with my first-round pick, I'll take Chase Martin.
All right. With my second round pick, I am going to go with Roderick Pleasant out of Sarah. I mean, he's one of the best players in the state, and he's a guy that, everybody knows that he can take over the game in every phase of football: offense, defense, special teams. We just had his coach on the show last week, talked about the comparisons to Adoree Jackson. So, this guy is a big-time athlete, big-time competitor. Sunday potential, coming off a state championship last year, and, wants to do it again here in his senior year.
With the number 2 pick, no, I'll stay Ryan Staub, West Ranch quarterback. I think for me it's kind of like the usual suspects. I'll break out some other names here in round 4 and 5, but with these top 2, Chase Martin and Ryan Staub, just literally every week is expected to throw touchdowns, produce a victory, and he has. So it's like the hype plus he's backing it up, and now it's. Can he do it when it matters most? I think the answer is yes. I'll actually be there on Friday night. I'm going to go cover West Ranch Friday night.
Very nice. For my 3rd pick, I'm going to go with Huson Longstreet out of Inglewood. He sophomore quarterback, led them to an undefeated season in his first year as the starter, beat St. Bonaventure, outdueled Carlsbad and Julian Sayin, the top quarterback in next year's class. Likely headed to Georgia. Anytime you get a young quarterback playing in the spotlight who's just, been on a tear, having an amazing season. Always exciting to watch him, see what he could do the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'll probably go with my 3rd player. I think I gotta I'm gonna kind of pick a group. It's gonna be the Sierra Canyon running backs. It's gonna be Terrell Cooks and Dane Dunn, and that's because they've been so unstoppable. I'd like to see if they can keep that up in the postseason. So, and I think they can.
Yeah, that running game for them has been
unbelievable,
unstoppable. I'm going to go for my 4th pick with Brady Smigel, keeping it with the theme of young quarterbacks. And, all year the question about him has been, how will he handle his first blank? Yeah, his first season. His first taste of adversity, his first, taste of, being a big hype guy, when he finally threw that first interception. And the answer every single time to all of those questions has been, he's handled it like a true professional.
Yeah, he's been great. Yeah, he's been great. And that's a kid that is like, sky's the limit. Or, there is no limit for this kid.
Right.
And we're all expecting him to do really, really fun and great things for Newbury Park.
Yeah, and now we get to ask the question, how will he handle his first postseason? We're about to find that out, but no reason to expect that the answer to that is going to be any different than the answer that we've gotten time and time again the last few months.
If I'm not mistaken, I think they host their first game, too. So he's going to be able to show out in a playoff game in front of his home crowd, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna say Isaiah Chisholm for my 4th player, Chaminade linebacker. I wrote a story on him earlier this year. Just kind of a kid that came out of nowhere on the recruiting scene. Really was just, a good player, and then didn't even go to camps. Just kind of word of mouth. Hey, this kid's getting better, stronger. Look at his film. Next thing you know, I think Oregon State offered him first, which is where he's committed. But then SC started rolling around and all these other big. So he's got like 13, 14 offers. He is verbally committed to Oregon State, but Isaiah Chisholm and a guy like Marquise Gallegos, right? But Chaminade's defense, led by Isaiah Chisholm, I think is what they're going to need to win and go deep in the Division II playoffs.
For sure. And then to round it out, I'm going to go with DeLon Thompson, the running back out of St. Bonaventure, the leading rusher in the entire state. He had 2,235 rushing yards. It's an average of more than 200 rushing yards a game. Somehow he still seems to be chronically underrated.
Oh, yeah. It's been the story, at least in Ventura County. And Ventura County is not even in my area. And I write about DeLon Thompson because I just think to myself, here's a kid that can help a program, and what else does he need to do? There's nothing else he can do. There's no AAU circuit, right, for football. Right. You go to camps, he's done it. You have good film, he's done it. You score touchdowns and gain yards and help your team win. He's done everything you could possibly ask of him. So I think he'll be a late pickup for a college team. I think on the recruiting circuit, when you offer that first Division I scholarship, it's like a stamp of approval, and then they come flooding in. So I think the program that wants them the best doesn't want to offer them because they're afraid everyone else will kind of get on them too. So they're waiting till the 11th hour, and then they're going to try and scoop them. That's what I think.
Well, look, this guy, it's hard to imagine how much more he possibly has to prove, but he's got a big chance in front of him right now in that stacked Division II bracket, playing in the big spotlight against some big-time teams. And listen, nobody's been able to stop him at this point. I don't know at this point who will be able to, and that doesn't necessarily mean that St. Bonaventure is unbeatable, but if you're going to beat them, you ain't going to beat them by stopping DeLon Thompson.
Yeah, you have to stop him. And so it's going to be an interesting trek for them, and they literally are going on a trek. They play Oak Hills out in Hesperia for the second time this year, so they got to go on the road. That's another example of a outright league champion that has to go on the road, by the way. It's ridiculous. And then my fifth player, I'm going to go with kind of a low division guy. I am going to go with... I had him on my radar, and I can't think of who it is now. I've lost who I was going to say. Oh, you know what? I'll say Peyton White.
Okay.
Running back from Alamany. I'm going to stick with this storyline. I think he's the key. He's raised his hand. The quarterback went down. I'll play quarterback, coach. Okay, Wildcat. Never really, of course, a running back, but never has had to kind of take a snap and run, RPO and stuff like that. So I'll say Peyton White, Division 5, Alamany, and if they're going to have success, it's going to be because of him.
All right, so we've teased this a few times during the show. We're finally going to get to the answer now. Tarek Fattal, here on the Cannon Sports Podcast, has a solution to all the controversy that we've seen regarding the playoff seeding. Take it away.
So there's nothing that's perfect. So I always preamble, like, no system is perfect. No leader is it's just the world. Nothing is perfect. However, I think this mathematical system, there are pros to it. A pro being, let's say, some random team that was in Division 13 last year. By the way, this was Inglewood like 3-4 years ago. I think they were like a Division 12 champions or something. But before the Cal Prep system, they got all these transfers and then rolled through a division they had no business being in. So this math system takes a team like that, and you can go up as high as you can. So if you have a great year and you go 9-1, you're probably going to play in like a higher division, depending on your schedule. So that's a good thing. I'm trying to be fair. That's a good thing for this Cal Preps rankings. What is poor, and I think just needs to be added, is have this math element, and then there's two changes you need to, I won't be long-winded here. There's two elements that you need to change. One is, I think a division threshold needs to be implemented. For example, you cannot drop more than 2 divisions prior to the division you were birthed in the year before. That would stop Servite. So Servite at 1-9, that was in the Division 1 final, should have no business, and they didn't make it, thank God, into Division 4 or 5. You have no business being down there. If you were at this caliber, I don't care how bad you are, especially if you're in the Trinity League, you shouldn't go down and play Division 5 teams.
So that means Servite would have had the ability to get in at 1, 2, or 3 only, and if not there, no way.
You don't qualify.
Okay.
Because if you're 1-9, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs, and that's that. So a threshold. Alamany was in the Division 2 final. They're in Division 5. If you can't get into Division 1, 2, 3, or 4, you don't go to the playoffs. Another team probably more deserving at that level gets in. That's my one. And then the second one is actually really easy. When all those brackets, when the pairings are released, you look at the matchups, and you look at who's a league champion and who's an at-large team, and you just flip it. That's it. So you have a team that, listen, at every level, Friday, you got to win your league. Saturday in college, you got to win your conference. And on Sundays in the NFL, you got to win your division. Nothing's ever changed. So when you ask a team, the prerequisite generally before making the playoffs is every team's goal is to win their league, conference, or division. So why not reward a team for doing what they're asked of by saying, hey, you're the outright league champion. Okay, you've been matched up with an at-large team. Okay, their Cal Prep rating is higher than yours, but you won your league. We're going to give you a home game. And that's not that crazy of a fix. So just do the matchups as they got put out this year, and then you just kind of, it's a between the ears thing. It's not a math thing. It just, hey, it's a no-brainer. This team deserves to host a game. They're 10-0. Thousand Oaks is 10-0 and the outright Canyon League champion. They should host a game. So you would just switch that. Chaparral would be on the road. And those are my two changes. And I don't think those are I don't think those are crazy alterations.
Yeah, I mean, seems reasonable to me. So, we talked about the real life implications of the first change you would make, how that would affect teams like Alemany, Servite. Obviously, Thousand Oaks is the big one that would get affected. Had the second fix been implemented for this year, but who else in a real life scenario, the way the brackets are constructed this year, would have been big winners of that change.
I think St. Bonham. I don't know if I'd have to look. Like now, if you got matched up against league winner, like league number one, whoever's the highest Cal Prep rated team, okay, that's who hosts.
Sure.
Cool, no problem. But if you've won your own league, the Cal Prep ranking, if you're in the same division as another team, it's obviously already equal. So if you're gonna reward a team with a home game, it should be the team that won their league. That just is like a no-brainer. And at every level, the team that earns with the better record or a divisional like in NFL, a lot of people don't even know this. In the NFL, every playoff round it reseeds. I don't even know if it reseeds. Right. So if you get in by wild card, you're basically on the road every week. Well, yeah, because you sucked during the regular season. So my point is, reward the teams that have earned it, and being a league champion should certainly get you a home game. So division threshold, get a home game if you win the league. Doesn't seem that crazy to me.
Seems reasonable to me. Well, we have covered quite a bit on this show today, and that is without a single game being played. Those are all going to kick off this Friday, yes. So everybody make sure you grab a breakfast burrito, grab your favorite graphic tee, and strap in.
You'll be good in my book. I mean, it's graphic tee and breakfast burrito.
It's going to be a wild one these next few weeks. Tarek, thanks for coming on. Before we go, anything you want to shout out? Where can we find you and read more?
Yeah, no, dailynews.com/highschoolsports. And, of course, on Twitter is just Tarek, TAREK _Fattal, FATTAL. And if you're more of a TV person, I'm on CBS Sports Central every Sunday afternoon, but 4:30, depending on when the football game ends.
Yeah, that's right. Haven't had a chance to congratulate you on your new gig there. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been great. Kind of a regular person in their talent wheel, so to speak. So I'm on every weekend, Sunday afternoon, CBS Sports Central with Jim Hill. So you can catch me there too.
Awesome. And we at Cannon Sports look forward to bringing you even more coverage of the high school football playoffs. Thanks again to Tarek Fattal for joining us on the show, and we will see you next time on the Cannon Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and follow on Instagram at Cannon Sports, TikTok at Cannon Sports Official, and of course, cannonsports.com for all your sporting goods needs.